In SpeedDuel, skills have to be one of the most important aspects of a deck. They essentially behave as the glue that holds the entire strategy together. And with SpeedDuels having well over 100 skills, there's bound to be some real stingers amongst them. That's why in today's video, we're going to be discussing the top 10 worst skills in all of SpeedDuels. Now, before we do begin today's video, I did want to go ahead and preface this that I'm going to be judging each of these skills based on how powerful the effect is, how easily it is to go ahead and resolve the effect, and finally, do keep in mind, this is all going to be also my own personal opinion on each of these skills. So if by any means one of your favorite skills ends up making it on my top 10 list, I do apologize. But with that being said, if you guys do end up enjoying today's video and would like to support the channel, then you can do so by supporting me via the channel memberships. But if you're unable to join the membership, then you can always just leave a like and subscribe to the channel. That also helps a ton. But with that being said, let's begin. Alright then, so before we begin with the actual top 10, I did have a few honorable mentions for this list. These are the skills that were just bad enough to catch my eye, but not bad enough to actually make it into the top of the Dookie list. Coming in the honorable mentions, we have Peak Performance, Power of Darkness, and Straight to the Grave. All these skills are pretty much just the generic field spell skill that gives your monster a nice little boost in attack and defense. These are kind of boring to talk about just because it's just a flat field spell skill and there isn't much substance to them. Additionally, in the honorable mentions, we do have Archfiend's Conscript. This skill is really high rolling, and it still is a very bad skill that sometimes benefits you, so it's in the list. Next up, we have Millennium Eye. This skill, its only merit comes from playing in a sealed environment where you're playing with pre-constructed decks, but in any other scenario, Millennium Eye is very bad. Reshuffling your opponent's hand is not that good. Next up, we have Premature Material. This skill only makes it into the top of the honorable mentions just for the very fact that it is a once per duel effect that requires you to revive a vanilla monster from the graveyard of a fusion monster listed materials. It's very specific, but the effect at least is somewhat decent in order to make an argument for like a monarch-based strategy. And with that, that's all the honorable mentions on this list. In the comments below, let me know, are any of these skills your personal favorites? And if so, tell me why. Alright then, now it's time for the actual list. Coming in at number 10, we have Even the Odds, Tristan's skill that came out of Battle City Finals. And man, this skill was so close to being a top tier skill, but the requirement is just, it holds it back so much. So let's give it a read. This skill's activation requirement is the following. Activate this skill only if your opponent controls exactly 3 cards and you control no cards. That's already a very bad start. But the effect reads, during your main phase, you can add 1 card from your deck to your hand, then place 1 card from your hand to the bottom of the deck. This skill can only be used once per duel. As I said, this skill got so close to being a top tier skill for the very fact that you could search out literally anything from your deck and then just mulligan whatever you need at the least. However, what holds this skill back as much as it does is the fact that in order to activate this skill, not only do you have to have no cards on your field, which means that either you're activating this at the very beginning of your turn, or you're in a very bad situation during a duel. It's not even that, it's the fact that your opponent additionally has to control 3 cards on their field exactly that holds it back the most. It's the second your opponent knows about this skill, they know exactly how to play around it. As long as your opponent doesn't have exactly 3 cards, you technically are playing without a skill. Even though the effect is really good, it still has to edge it out into the top of the worst skills in SpeedDuels because of how easy it is to play around it. So for the very fact that it comes out as the best of the worst. Coming in at number 9, we have Collector. This is Rare Hunter's skill that ended up coming out of Streets of Battle City. And it has a very simple skill activation requirement where all you have to do is just flip it over whenever you're ready to activate. And the effect of this skill reads, once per duel, if your opponent controls a monster, you can discard 2 cards with different types, monster, spell, or trap. Then you can add 1 card from your deck to your hand of the 3rd type. Now, at first glance, this sounds like a pretty decent effect. You're able to search out essentially for any card in your deck. But keep in mind, you have to discard 2 cards to get access to 1, and at that, it's not just discarding any 2 random cards, it has to be 2 cards of different types, meaning that it becomes extremely awkward to go ahead and activate this effect. I think as a whole, this effect isn't bad, it's just very clunky to play. For that very reason, it has to make it into this list. As it is right now, you're going way too negative in advantage to go ahead and make any real case to use this skill, so it comes in as number 9 in this list. Coming in at number 8, we have a tie between Aroma Strategy and Looking into the Future. Now, both these skills behave very similarly, however, they all each have their own unique reasons why they're really bad. Let's begin with my skill Aroma Strategy. This skill in particular has really no downside to it, I guess, but the benefit is just really underwhelming. You flip this card over at the beginning of the duel and you just can look at the top card of your deck at any time, which seems okay, but for the most part, all it gives you is just the knowledge of the next card you're going to be drawing. As for the other skill in looking into the future, this is Aster's skill that I believe came out in Duel Academy box. This skill, it allows you to activate it at any point during the duel, and for the effect of during the main phase, you can look at the top 3 cards of your deck and return them in any order. However, you can't activate any spell cards the turn you activate the skill. And here are the issues with these skills. First thing I should explain is the fact that looking into the future is an obvious upgrade with air quotes to Aroma Strategy. However, it comes with a really bad downside effect where you can't activate any spell cards to turn you activate this effect. The reason for this is because you're supposed to be playing this in a Diamond Dew Turbo deck where you're able to go ahead and rearrange the cards in your deck to go ahead and facilitate the effect of Diamond Dew, and typically you want to do this with spell cards that have a really annoying activation requirement to go ahead and bypass the requirement to just get the effect of the spell card. In concept, it sounds pretty decent, but I feel like the downside of not being able to activate any spell cards that turn, it's way too high of a requirement in order to go ahead and justify the skill being a good skill. But nevertheless, it's still better than a lot of the other bad skills in Speed Duels. And same applies with Aroma Strategy. It's just a very middling skill that, granted, you don't have to pay any cost, but at the same time, you only get to look at the top card of your deck, and that's really underwhelming. Coming in at number 7, we have Powerful Group of Guys. Oh, Aster, Konami did you so dirty. Unfortunately, we have another skill from Aster coming in from the same Duel Academy box. And this skill's activation requirement is just very simple. You can activate it at any point during your turn. And it reads, while you control exactly one Destiny Hero monster and no other monster, and your opponent controls more monsters than you do, you can special summon one Destiny Hero monster from your hand or deck with a lower level of the monster you control. You can only summon Destiny Hero monsters the turn you activate the skill. Okay, so let's talk about it. The main reason why this skill is so bad is for the very fact that the activation requirement is very, very steep. The fact that it requires you to have exactly only one Destiny Hero monster in order to use this effect, and at that, the monster you're summoning has to be a lower level than the monster you control, and then on top of that, your opponent has to control more monsters than you do, meaning they have to control at least 2 monsters on their field to resolve this effect, is diabolical. Now, don't get me wrong, I get the idea behind this. You're supposed to be able to go ahead and summon a Destiny Hero monster on the field, cheat out another one from the deck, and then activate it like an effect like Malicious, I guess, from the graveyard to go ahead and bring out a third monster in order to make summoning out something like a Dogma or a Plasma a lot easier. But did you see that? The amount of requirements needed in order to facilitate a play like that is far too much. It's extremely high cost in order to justify playing this skill. And the fact that it locks you into only playing Destiny Hero monsters is another really big downside to the skill as well. And for the very fact, it made it onto this list. Coming in at number 6, we have another tie with Behold Gate Guardian and Hieratic Chant. So let's talk about them. Behold Gate Guardian reads, this skill can only be activated while you control Song of the Thunder, Pausagen, or Suijin. And the effect reads, activate this skill during your main phase. Shuffle your entire hand into the deck, then add one level 11 monster from your deck to your hand. And if you do, you can special summon up to 2 level 7 monsters with different attributes from your deck and or graveyard, but their attacks and defense become 0. Also, their effects are negated. While you control Gate Guardian, it gains the following effect. Once while face up on the field, when this card is targeted for an attack, you can change the attacking monster's attack to 0 until the end of the damage step. Yowza, okay. Now for Hieratic Chant. At the start of the duel, flip this card over, that's the skill activation requirement, and the effect reads, activate this skill during your main phase, discard your entire hand, minimum 1, to add the Winged Dragon Raw from your deck or graveyard to your hand. And if you do, you can tribute summon one monster during your main phase this turn in addition to your normal summoner set. Okay, so you can kind of see why these two skills are paired up together. The main idea of both these skills is that they're supposed to, air quotes, make it easier to summon out your boss monsters, whether that be the Winged Dragon Raw and or Gate Guardian. But let's go and tackle Behold Gate Guardian first. It's the fact for me that you have to control one of these big guys in order to go ahead and facilitate the skill, which isn't the worst thing ever. But what makes it the worst for me is the fact that you have to give up your entire hand in order to go ahead and get a big old beat stick on the field that gets one of the worst effects possible. Because let me explain. Gate Guardian is a monster that has 3,750 attack points. I don't know what monster your opponent is using in order to attack into it. That's what makes this little bonus effect feel like a slap in the face, because almost under no circumstance is your opponent actually going to be attacking into it. It would be better if it gave Gate Guardian the effect to change the attack of one monster your opponent controls to 0. That would make a lot more sense in my opinion. And as for the Heretic Chance skill, well, this one, the reason why it's so bad is the fact that in order to search out Ra, you have to give up every card in your hand, my bad, and then you can search out Ra. What this means is that you've been able to amass a board of 3 monsters on your field, and all you needed is Ra in order to facilitate the summon. That is really, really bad. Additionally, it's the fact that once you summon out the Ra, you're going to be in a very close to death scenario because of the fact that your life points are going to be reduced to 100 in order to go ahead and give Ra any attack points. This skill just does almost the bare minimum for you, and at that it still fails at it. For that very reason, these 2 skills are just not doing almost anything for the deck, and you're probably better off just playing something else if you wanted to play these gimmick decks. Coming in at number 5, we have the Psychic Duelist. This is one of Esperoba's skills, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, this skill came out in the very first Battle City box. This skill reads, skill activation is just flipping it over whenever you're ready activated, and the effect is, activate one of the following skills during your main phase by paying half your life points. Effect number 1, target one set card in your opponent's spell and trap card zone and declare one type, monster, spell, or trap. Then reveal the face down card. And if it's the declared type, it can't be activated this turn. Skill number 2, randomly select one card in your opponent's hand and declare one type, monster, spell, or trap. Then reveal that card. If it's of the declared type, inflict 500 damage to your opponent. Each of these skills can only be used once per duel. Oh my goodness. This skill is atrocious. So let's break it down. First big issue with this skill is the fact that in order to activate any of these skills, you need to pay half your life points. Additionally, it's not just bad enough the fact that you have to pay half your life points to activate each of these skills, it's the fact that both these skills, in addition to having you pay half of your life points, still have a chance of just doing nothing. If it happens to be that your opponent had a spell card set or a trap card set and you called the opposite, then congratulations, you paid half your life points for nothing. And now we turn our attention to the hand effect. This effect is just unjustifiably bad. The fact that you have to pay half your life points for the chance of burning your opponent for 500 life points is laughable. And at that, you don't even get rid of the card in your opponent's hand. You only get to know what it was. That's it. These 2 skills are so badly designed, but somehow Konami managed to develop worse skills than these, which is crazy work. Coming in at number 4, we have another Paradox Brothers skills with elements of thunder, water, and wind. It is crazy to think about that in the midterm Paradox box, Konami tried giving the Paradox Brothers 3 separate skills and they were all some level of bad. But this is probably the worst one. This skill reads, you can activate the skill at any point during the turn, and the effect is, activate the skill while your life points are at 1000 or less. Okay, that's already a bad start. You can normal summon Suijin, Kazujin, or Sangha of the Thunder without tribute summoning this turn. Or, if you control Suijin, Kazujin, and Sangha, you can apply the following skill instead. Send as many cards on the field as possible to the graveyard. Then special summon one Gate Guardian from your deck, ignoring its summoning conditions. Okay, so where do we begin? Well, it's the fact that this skill requires you to be in such a bad losing position for the opportunity to normal summon Suijin, Kazujin, or Sangha without tribute summoning. That's already a horrendous effect. But the second effect is somewhat redeemable, even though the condition to summon it to activate the skill is really, really bad. I do like the fact that it does allow you to send everything on the field to the graveyard in order to have like a chance to beat your opponent. That is pretty cool. The point is, this skill requires so much out of you in order to go ahead and resolve, and at that, you still have the odds of going ahead and losing that turn is diabolical. And for that very reason, I can't go ahead and justify this skill being any better than a lot of the skills we've seen so far. We're now on to the top 3 worst skills in Speed Duels, and coming in bronze place, we have Grit. Grit is one of Joey's skills that I believe came out in the original Battle City box, if not one of the booster sets, but correct me in the comments below if I'm wrong there. And this skill reads, at the start of your turn, you can call 2 numbers and roll a 6-sided die. If you roll a number you called, your life points do not get lower than 1 until the end of your opponent's next turn. This skill can only be used once per duel. And yowza. Where do we even begin with this skill? Well, let's begin with the fact that this skill has a chance of just not working whatsoever because you have a 1 in 3 chance of not rolling a number that you called, which is ridiculous. So even if you're in a situation where you need to resolve this skill, you still have a chance of failing. And at that, the only benefit of the skill and what makes it not a top 1 bad skill in Speed Duels is the fact that its effect is pretty okay. You get to survive on 1 life point, essentially becoming the sturdy of Yu-Gi-Oh! If you get the Pokemon reference, which isn't horrible. Hitting 1 full turn of being able to survive whatever your opponent has coming in at you is pretty decent. But imagine if sturdy only worked in Pokemon, a 1 in 3 chance of potentially surviving the turn. It would be horrendous. And for that very reason, I had to give it such a low placement on this list. You can't guarantee the fact that this skill is gonna resolve. Alright then, coming in at number 2, receiving the silver medal for worst skill in Speed Duels is Viral Infection. Oh boy, this is gonna be a doozy. So this skill says flip this card over when you're ready to activate the skill, and once per turn you can discard any number of cards and declare 1 type of card, monster, spell, or trap, and then your opponent sends 1 card from the declared type from their deck to the graveyard for each discarded card, and then you flip this card over. I hope I don't have to explain to you guys why this skill is so bad, but nevertheless I still will. First big issue with this skill is the fact that you are going really negative in hand advantage in order to use this skill. Losing any amount of cards from your hand is always a bad thing because you need those cards in order to do anything. But if you are going to lose resources from your hand, the effect better be worth it. And what's the effect? Your opponent gets to send a card, a monster, spell, or trap card, whatever your call is, to the graveyard. Keep in mind, you're not dictating what card specifically they're sending to the graveyard. So let's say your opponent, there's a specific spell card you don't want to have to deal with. Your opponent can just avoid sending that 1 card and just send any other spell card to the graveyard. But additionally, it's the fact that if your opponent already has 1 of those cards in their hand, then this skill is pretty much useless, and it's just making you go minus in your own hand advantage and causing you to lose this duel faster, which is crazy work. For the very reason, Viral Infection has come at number 2 on this list. And at number 1, the skill that gets the gold medal for worst skill in Speed Duels, it's none other than Presence. This is one of Ishizu's skills that I believe she received in the first starter deck in Speed Duels, which makes sense why this skill is so bad. And it reads, if your opponent's life points is more than twice your life points, activate this skill. That is an insane activation requirement. You may look at the top card of both you and your opponent's deck at any time. Yep, that's it. There's no more to that skill. That's all you get. When you are losing and getting your ass handed to you as badly as to the point where your opponent's life points are at least twice of yours, all you get to know is what your opponent's gonna draw next and what you're gonna draw next. This skill is so bafflingly bad that I cannot imagine what scenario you would ever play this skill. Honestly, there are a lot of bad skills in Speed Duels, but the fact that you have to be losing so bad for just getting to know what you and your opponent gonna draw next is horrendous. It's beyond words how bad it is. I fathom to think of a scenario where this skill would be semi-remotely useful. And for that very reason, this skill has to be number 1 in the worst skills in Speed Duels. Alright then guys, and with that, this concludes today's video. In the comments section below, let me know, do you agree, do you disagree with the choices I made in today's video? And if you disagree, let me know what cards you think should have been on the list that didn't quite make it. Also, in the comments section below, let me know, is there any other video you'd like to see me do in this format? Because I had a blast making this video, and I'm looking forward to making more videos of this type. But before we do go, I did want to go ahead and give a quick shout out to our channel members, that being Push X to Start. Thank you so much for the support, man. And if you guys would like to support the channel as well, then you can do so by joining the channel memberships. But if you're unable to do so, then you can always support the channel by just leaving a like and subscribing. But with that being said, guys, thank you so much for making it to the end, and I'll catch you on the next one. Bye.